Okay. Tired. Okay, today we're going to start on Ayin Vav Amad Beis. It's the second to the last line. That's 76b. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. In the schus of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. Also, for in memory, Le'ila Nishmas, Zahava, Golda, Bas Baruch Binyamin. Remember, because Zahava is Golda, and Baruch Binyamin is both with the base. So. Okay. And his brother's Baruch. Okay. Okay, what we were discussing here, we're discussing how to get a case where Reb Shimon's shita was that if someone steals a korban, in certain cases he's still going to have to pay. If he slaughters it, still going to have to pay 4 or 5 times. The problem is, if someone steals an animal that was consecrated, still going to have to pay 4 or 5 times, depending on if it was the type of consecration that the owner is going to be chayav b'achar yusan. Still going to be considered like the owner's property. So the problem was that if he shechs it, according to Reb Shimon's own shita, Reb Shimon held that shchita sheina ruya ain't leishmei shchita. It's not considered a good shchita. So where's he shechting it? He's shechting it outside the Beis Hamikdash. How's it going to be a good shchita? So we had an answer from Reb Yochanan. He was shechting it in the Beis Hamikdash. And so he said, but then he returned it to the owner. He shechted it as a korban. The Beis Hamikdash, we said, no, he shechted it not for the sake of the owner. But it was considered a valid shchita. But we had another case where the blood, he didn't sprinkle the blood. What happened over there? According to Rabbi Yitzchak, Zinish Bachadam, the blood spilled out. Okay. Now, what the Gemara went into, that at the time of the shechita, it's still not considered valid until the blood is sprinkled. So at the time of the shechita, it's not a good shechita. Because it takes for a korban, it takes the sprinkling of the blood for it to be eligible. So why should it be considered a valid shechita by a regular animal when you shecht it? Very good. You shechted it. That's all it takes. I know you have to get the blood out and all of that. That's just the kashering process. But the shechita is perfect. But by a korban, there's another step. Another step is the sprinkling of the blood. So until the blood's sprinkled, it shouldn't be considered valid. Basically means that the shechita is no good. So we answered that according to Reb Shimon, the potential, in front of base on the bottom. No, actually that looks like Ayin Zion. Go back to one page. Oh, one back. One more. Yeah, bottom over there. So we answered that according to Reb Shimon, potential is also matters, and we explained kalayim lizrik, anything that has potential to be sprinkled. Considered like as if it was sprinkled. Yeah.
It's not a mitzvah baba avera.
Oh, that's an interesting question. That he's a korban that was stolen. But after Yish, Chaim's answer is that it's after Yish. I don't know if that's a valid answer because the ones that hold that mitzvah baba avera. Where does it say that? Is that clearly the answer?
I don't know, but we mentioned before.
Because the Gemara Sukkah.
There was a lot of questions before.
We did say that it's Alach Yish. Say that it's Alach Yish, but the Gemara Sukkah said, and we had it over here also. A gazal v'asa pisayach ma pisayach she. You remember this? Just like a lame animal that there's no takana for it. We had it somewhere in Meruba. Just like a lame animal, there's no takana for it. So too a gazal a stolen animal, it's still not going to be a valid sacrifice. I think the answer is that if he's bringing. Means what does mitzvah ba'avera mean? So you're not. Oh, it's samachtas. It's on samachtas. Leishna gasol.
It's talking about.
Okay.
Everybody agrees after Yush that it's his. The only question is before Yush.
One second.
Could he concentrate before Yush?
Yeah, that I understand. That's a machlekes. Right.
But after Yush, for sure, everybody agrees that you can.
So what about that pasuk of what about the pasuk of Hasagazel Vesapisayach? No, but it says Leishna. The Gemara says Ma Pisayach Shein Takana. It was the bottom line in the over here. And it was the top line in
there's a Gazlan and a Ghana.
Okay.
Saying over here. If he's a Gazlan, there's no Takana.
Oh, is that what it said?
Something like that. If he's a Ghana.
Okay, I have to. Oh no, that's not it. I have to look it up.
Even if they use Shalachar use Kana, Shaloi who prevail, Shaloi who want
Oh, here it is. It's Samach Zion. Amar Ula Minayin Liyishay Nakaina Shenemar Vevesim Gazel as a Psiach Vesachela Gazel Dum the Psiach Ma Psiach Leslay Takanta Klal Af Gazel Leslay Takanta Lishna Lifnei Yesh Lishna Lachi Yesh. So you want to say Ravu Damar Gazel. I have to go back to Samach Zion and see what's going on. Yeah, Chaim's telling me that that Elacha Yesh is not going to be a problem. My problem is that in Masechta Sukkah, the Gemara seems to conclude over there that even with Yesh it doesn't work. But okay.
Like there's no shear, right, for the lulav.
Like for the lulav. Yeah. By the lulav we said that a stolen lulav is not good, and even if with Yesh, that's what we wanted to say. Even with Yesh. Yeah, we have to go through that. Okay. Right. And it didn't make it differentiate. Okay.
I think I heard like with someone though, someone would let you borrow it.
That's like if you leave it in the shul.
That's not stolen.
Borrow, like a stamp or
okay, now the Gemara says, because we quoted that Reb Shimon looks at the potential, that's already considered enough for it to be a good slaughtering. So we also said, Kaloimid liftais. Anything that's standing to be redeemed is as if it's redeemed already. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Reb Shimon Aimer. Reb Shimon says, para, which is referring to a para aduma, it gives off. It can contract tumasaychlin. Tumasaychlin means that food that can contract tuma and give off tuma. Now, a paraduma really is not supposed to be eaten. But there was one moment in this process where, after it was shechted, theoretically, you could have been paid it, you could have redeemed it and eaten it. So since you had that theoretical potential to redeem it at that moment after it was slaughtered, so then it was considered food for one moment, and then it will still receive the impurity of food. Rish Lakish says, it's good we're not doing the taste.
What is this Tosfos about? Just what's the subject matter?
The subject has to do with the fact is, why does it have tumasaychlin? It's tummy anyway as nevela. Well, like what is the tumasaychlin adding to the nevela?
Okay.
Or not to the nevela. It's typically the gufa mitami adam begadim. The para aduma gave tuma to people that carried it. Yeah.
That's not so good.
someone told me that one of the Taisvus in here in Meruba, the Taisvus was written by the Bali Taisvus were in the time of the Crusades. So one of these Taisvus, and I think this big Taisvus, they wrote it the night before they were killed. York. It was not in York. That was the Chachmi Anglia, but there was some castle that they were hiding in and something, and they knew that they were. And while they were under siege, they wrote this down. I don't know the story, but I don't know how it survived. Yeah,
several people.
It was a group of students, but Rabbeinu Tam was stabbed 5 times. I think he was left for dead by the Crusaders. Okay. Reish Lakish says, "Omer Hayir Reb Shimon." The Crusaders were trying to take the land from the Muslims. They wanted the land of Israel back from the Muslims. I don't know why people forget history. Okay. The colonists or something. Reb Shimon says, Reish Lakish says, Reb Shimon would say, Para niftis al gabi ma'arachta, that you can even redeem the para aduma even when it's already on the fire. Let's say you slaughtered, the para aduma gets burnt. So they would slaughter the animal and then they would burn it. But even they slaughtered it on the they redeem it after the slaughtering. But yeah, even after it's slaughtered, then if you found another one that was going to be nicer than it, I don't know if that's practical. It's hard to find a paraduma, but if you would find one that's nice, you would be able to redeem it right then before it was burnt. Alma, but you see that that if it was potential for redemption, so then it would be considered that it's already as if it's redeemed, and it would have the status of food. As the status of food, then it can contract the tumah. Okay. Now, we gave different answers for how Reb Shimon has shchita and by a sacrifice. The answer for Reish Lakish was that it was a Baal Mum. It had a blemish, and then you shechted it not in the Beis Hamikdash. Okay? But it needs to be redeemed. It needs to be redeemed. So we said that, don't worry, it doesn't need to be redeemed because it had potential to be redeemed. Potential to be redeemed is enough. Okay. Talking about Bali Mumin Mi Karan, that, okay. Now, in Rabbi Yechanan's teretz was that it was shechted inside the Beis Hamikdash. Okay. The Gemara now says, I understand why Rabbi Yochanan doesn't say like Reish Lakish, he was trying to establish the Mishnah with a regular case, and a regular case would be an animal that doesn't have a mum. But why doesn't Reish Lakish go with the normal case? Just say it's a regular animal, and it was slaughtered in the temple, and it just wasn't with the intention for the owner. Amalach, so Reish Lakish would respond to you, Tvachai umacharei. Kol hechad isa b'mechira isa b'tvicha. Kol hechad lesa b'mechira lesa b'tvicha. V'hani kadshem hayal d'chim mezaben kadshem leihavim mechira lesna b'tvicha. If we're dealing with the regular carbon, since the regular carbon you can't sell it. So Reish Lakish says that anything that can't be sold also doesn't have the laws of being shechted. And since that's the case, so the only case that Reish Lakish could come up with was an animal, a carbon animal that could be sold, meant that it was a Baal Mum, and it was able to be sold. Now the Gemara says, so that's why Reish Lakish didn't go along with Rabbi Yochanan, because according to him, I know it can't be sold. According to Rabbi Yochanan, I know it can't be sold, but it could still be shechted. Some things could be shechted but not sold. And the halacha would apply to the shechita. You have to pay 4 or 5 times, depending on what animal it was.
Also, if you give it to hefker, it's also considered a salad.
A gift. Yeah, I don't know about hefker. I'm not sure. You're extending it a drop. They're making a chiddush.
Yeah.
Jonathan is after. Give it to
And the
Esther.
reason it can't be sold is it's already hektish?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Since it's hektish, you can't sell it. So, but according to Reish Lakish, it's a mum. It has a mum, and so therefore it could be redeemed and sold. So now the Gemara says that this happens to be a machlekes between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, which we didn't actually need to learn it over here. It says Vazdul Tamayo. They follow their own reasoning. Because we have a statement. Someone sells an animal. Now we're looking at the reverse. Someone sells a treifa animal. Now, the treifa doesn't mean that it's not a kosher animal. Treifa means that it has like a hole in the lungs, it's missing a leg, something. There's a problem, some problem with it, which will make it that if it was shechted, it would not be edible. So it's yeah, but I'm not talking about a pig. I'm talking about talking about a kosher animal. That's a treifa. When you shechted, you won't be eligible to be eaten. Now, Reb Shimon's opinion was back in the Mishnah that if someone shechts a treifa, it's not considered a good shchita. Reb Shimon held that we need to have shchita ru'uya. If it's a shchita sheina ru'uya, it's leishmei shchita. If it's not eligible to be eaten, it's not considered a good shchita. But if someone sells the treifa, he didn't shecht it, he sold it. Now, so the different Reb Shimon, according to Reb Shimon, that holds that if it's not a valid shchita to be eaten, but what about the sale? Well, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayav, Rabbi Yochanan says the sale makes him Chayav 4 or 5 times. And Reish Lakish Amar Pater, Reish Lakish says, no, it doesn't. Since there's no shchita, there's also no sale. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayav, Afagav Blessed B'Tzvicha Yisam Mechira. Rabbi Yochanan says, even though there's no shchita, but there still is selling. Reish Lakish Amar Pater, even less B'Tzvicha, less B'Mechira. And Rabbi Yochanan says, Reish Lakish says, it's Pater, since you don't have any shchita, you also don't have mechira. Okay. Ace for Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan has a question to Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish over here is being consistent. If you don't have this, then you don't have that automatically. And Rabbi Yochanan is saying, no, you can have one without the other. The question goes like this. We have a brisa. It says, Gunav Kalayim. Kalayim is going to be the sugya of the next page. Kalayim is 2 animals, let's say a goat and a sheep that mate, and they have offspring. Now, what's the status of that? We said that this only applies to an ox and a sheep. Here you have a goat mixed in and as one of the parents. So what's going to be now? It's called kalayim. Kalayim is like a forbidden mixture, right? So if someone stole this animal that was that sort of a mixed breed, utvacha, and he shechted it. Now, we're going to see what the halach is in a moment. Treifa, or he stole a treifa, an animal that had a hole in the lungs or something like that, one of those things that won't survive for a year. Machara, and he sold it. Now notice that by the treifa, it didn't say shchita. It said that he sold it, which sounds like we're following the view of Reb Shimon, that would hold that if you would have shechted it, then the law wouldn't apply. It's only you sold it that the law applies. Now this would fit very well with Rabbi Yochanan, that holds that you don't need to be consistent in this, even though there is no shchita, but there still is sale. Now, Mashalim, the rule is Mashal Tashlumi Abava Chamisha. My love Reb Shimoni, is it not the view of Reb Shimon? Because we said by the treifa, we said a machra. We didn't say utvacha. You see how particular we were over here. By the kalayim, we said you shechted it, and by the treifa, we didn't say that. By the treifa, we said a machra. So it's a kasha on Reish Lakish that says that even if you would have sold it, you still would not have to pay, because since there's no shechita, there's no selling. This is Rabbi Yochanan's question. Amalei, Reish Lakish respond, or he would respond, Loi. It's actually the opinion of the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan hold that you're allowed to, not you're allowed. If you shech the treifa, you also have to pay 4 or 5 times. The Rabbanan don't hold that you need shchita ruya. You mean any shchita, even if the shchita was no good, it's still going to be a shchita. It doesn't say they have to have shchita that's now going to with the kashrus label on it. Any shchita on a stolen animal is 4 or 5 times. Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan responds, you Rabbanan, if you want to say it's the Rabbanan, so treifa b'mechira isa b'zvicha lesa. So why was the brisa so particular to tell me that the treifa was being sold and not for shechted? it's the Rabbanon. You could have said that it got shechted. So Rish Lakish responds, "Well, am I Reb Shimon? So you want to say that it's because of that it's Reb Shimon? I have the same kasha on you. Kalayim, when it came to the forbidden mixture, I went through this quickly, so we didn't ask that question before. It gets stumped. So, but Kalayim bezvicha isa b'mechira lesa. Why were you so particular about the Kalayim? The crossbreed over there, it's only by shechita. It's not by selling. You can't sell it. There's something wrong. Ella, it must be tanat tvicha v'adin lemechira. We weren't being particular. We meant this or that. We picked an example. So if that's the case, the name of the Rabbanan Nami, Tanat Mechira v'adin letvicha. So by the Rabbanan also, when it says Treva, it said that he sold it, but the same thing would apply if he shechted it. Don't say that that's proof that it has to be Reb Shimon. You see that we weren't particular. It was just a simple example by the Kalayim. So the same thing by the Treifa. It's just a simple example. Rabbi Yechanan responds to this because Rabbi Yechanan is supporting his question against Rish Lakish. He says, "Hi, Mai, 1 second. You can't answer me that easy. You can't get away with this so easy." He says, Reb Shimon, if you would say my question is a valid question, and it's talking about that it's the view of Reb Shimon, and Reb Shimon holds that it's only going to be applicable by Mechira, but not by Tvicha, which means that it's not consistent, that we can have a selling of something, even though we can't have shechting of something. So then we would say like this, I did the Tana Treifa B'chada, Tana Kalayim B'chada. Since by Treifa we chose the selling, so by Kalayim we chose the shechting. Since we could only use one or the other. So we chose one for this and we chose one for that. But if it's the opinion of the Rabbanan and there's actually no difference between all of them, even by the treifa, you could still have the shechita. So now, why don't we just list it all together? Why do you divide it into separate cases? Gun of kalayim with treifa. Someone stole a crossbreed or a treifa. You could have listed it all together. And we know that Mishnahs and Brises like to be short. They like to be concise. Could have mixed it all together, and we could have said it would have been the same halacha on everything. Gemara says kasha. It's a kasha on Rish Lakish. Okay, now we go back to the sugi of kalayim, and we have to figure out when it says aliyam, what does it actually mean? Gemara says kalayim. You're gonna say that if he sells or if he shechts a stolen animal that's a crossbreed, you're gonna say that he has to pay 4 or 5 times. The problem is sexiv. The pasuk says it's chamisha bakar tachas chamisha what does it say? Tachas something chamisha tachas sure. Right? Right? So, but it says seh amarava zebneyav. Says this is the what do we call it? A precedent that kol makom shenamar seh ein el lohitziyas kalayim. And Rava said that when it says seh, it's coming to exclude kalayim. Yeah. Gemara answers shani hachadam akra'oi. Over here it says when a person stole, it says I don't have the psukim in here. Yeah, so it says if someone steals an ox or a lamb, because it says or, so l'rabi says a kalayim, that's coming to include. So what we're doing here is the extra word or is coming to include. The Gemara says is a little surprised on this. It says v'chol oilo rabisu. Every time it says or, you're coming to include. But Tanya, we have another brisa that says shorei kesef ki valid. We're talking about karbanis. It says prat l'kalayim. And it says exactly the opposite. It's coming to exclude, not include. Prat l'nidma. A nidma is an animal that's that's born from not a crossbreed, a lamb and another lamb, but what was born from it comes out looking like a goat or something else, comes out looking different. Remember we said Mary had a little lamb and the doctor fainted. Remember that? So over here it had this was a sheep that gave birth to I don't know, it's a cow. It's a nidma. It's what happened over there? I don't know.
Catch on top of the moon.
I'm sorry. Yeah. We're not talking about that. It was the prohibition aspect. Somehow it was someone did it. I don't know. We're talking about afterwards. So it's not fit. A mixed animal is not fit. This is the exclusion. Pratlikalim. It's pratlinim. You can't bring these animals as a sacrifice. Yeah. So Rava says 1 second. You have to look at the verses. You look at the verses carefully, you'll see which one is coming to include and which one is coming to exclude. When it comes to theft, it says an ox or a lamb. There's a slight problem because the gestation period of a ox is 9 months and a lamb is 5 months. So therefore they can't crossbreed. But a premium. Well, apparently they can't crossbreed. So when it says a shar oiseh, what does it mean or it must be coming to include l'rabis kalayim. If it wouldn't have said the word then I wouldn't have understood kalayim either, because there's no kalayim anyway. So therefore the is coming to include. I wouldn't have understood kalayim. The is coming to teach me something extra. What's coming to teach me that if there is ever kalayim, that's acceptable. Gabi kachim diksiv kesef ve'ez, but by kachim when it says kesef ve'ez, it actually says shar also. If it says kesef ve'ez, so shatiyachalay to kalayim ibneim, where you can have kalayim from a lamb or a goat, because both of them are only 5 months. The gestation period is the equal. So therefore, you could have had kalayim. So then I could have understood that maybe kalayim is acceptable. So then the has to tell me lamayat. When it says or, it's coming to exclude. Let's start tomorrow's stuff. From if we make it, if I make it, I'm supposed to be flying tomorrow. I make it so I may have to leave early, so it's good we get a little ahead. But Gabi Kachim Nami, by Kachim also Nemar Shar Oy Kesef Shenat Yachalei Tiklayim Menei. Have to look at the whole pasuk. It says Shar Oy Kesef Ayez, and over there you don't have by Shar Oy Kesef you can't get Kalayim out of that because one is 9 months and one is 5 months. Did I say yeah? It's 9 and 5. So Benirbi, and we should include Kalayim that it should be acceptable, just like we did by the Geneva. The Gemara says, "Mi the Sefer Lamayit, Reishanami Lamayit," because when it comes to Kesef Ayez, that oy in between Kesef Ayez, which could have included, has to teach me that we don't include. So thereby the Shara Kesef, we also have to exclude and not include. Gemara says, "Adarabba, Mi the Reishal Rabbi, Sefer Nami Rabbi." See what's going on over here? You have the Shar Kesef Ayez. The Kesef Ayez could make Kalayim. A lamb and a goat could make Kalayim. Could crossbreed. So therefore, and I could have understood that would be acceptable for a sacrifice. Pasuk he tells me that it's not acceptable. But the Gemara says, 1 second. I have Shar Kesef at the beginning of the Pasuk, which cannot make Kalayim. So that would tell me that the there's no Kalayim anyway. The must be telling me that Kalayim is acceptable. So it should be including Kalayim. That the crossbreed should be acceptable carbon. So from the first I should include. The second I should not. I should exclude. The Gemara says, since the end is excluding, so the first one is also excluding. The Gemara says, Adarabba, midrashul Rabba seifanami l'Rabbis. Why are you doing it that way? This basically you're just flipping a coin. You say, because of this, you're doing that. So do it the other way. Yeah, this is how the kids argue. They say, "What's the difference to you? Why don't you just?" So there's no difference to you. So why don't you just do it my way? Okay. Umar says, "Hi, Mai. 1 second. If we say we're coming to exclude who did trey mute, that's why we would need two exclusions. Even though we excluded a crossbreed, it's nidma. We still have to exclude a nidma, which is that animal that's that comes out looking different than the parents, right? That's the nidma. That should not be brought as a carbon. This becomes like problematic, when two white parents have a child that's colored. It becomes like, how'd that happen, right? So over here, this is two sheep that have a child that's a cow. This creates shalom bias problems with the sheep. Yeah, I know it's not 100%. Yeah. So if you tell me that I need two exclusions, lama, why would that happen? If you included kalayim, that means an actual crossbreed is acceptable. So an animal that really is not a crossbreed but looks like it's a crossbreed is going to be a problem. If a crossbreed itself is accepted, if it's the rabbis, then why do you need two? It must be in Lamayat. That once I exclude kalayim, maybe still nidma is necessary. Maybe still nidma is included, so it needs to exclude nidma as well. But if you're coming to include,
I sent out to the chat the birth of a Jeep where it actually happened. There's a little video. It's crossbreed.
Of the Jeep?
They call it a Jeep. Goat in the sheep.
Oh, I thought it was some science fiction thing.
No,
birth
it
of a
actually
Jeep.
happened. So there's a video from the farm.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Ella.
Jeep with a G, not Jeep with a
with a J.
Wrangler.
Okay, so then Ella, where are we holding now? We're holding that that we're being mamayat. Okay, by the carbon we're being mamayat. You can't use a carbon needs to be a purebred. How do you get into this? Because we quoted Rava saying that whenever it says seh, the word lamb, it's coming to exclude a crossbreed. But you just told me now that for us, sure, a kesef, it doesn't even say seh. By the karbanis, it doesn't say seh. It says shor kesef, yes. By us, it says shor seh. By the gneva, and you told me that you're including, you're not excluding. So what was Rava talking about when he said anytime it says seh, it's excluding? So the Gemara goes through now a list of possibilities, and of course it's only the last one that's going to be the right answer. It's like one of my kids tell me. It says, why is it that whenever I lose something, I find it always in the last place that I look? Okay, so if we're talking about kachim, it's already excluding kalayim, because we said that was our whole Gemara over here, that oy is coming to exclude by the karbanas. It's coming to exclude a crossbreed if we're talking about sacrifices. Ila meiser, if we're talking about meiser behema, that one of them is going to be the 10th one, right? It's going to be a karban. So tachas yalf mikachim. Meiser is always learned from kachim. I have the pasuk tachas, and it's by a karban. It says tachas, and so therefore by the bechar it says tachas. So I learned. I'm sorry. Where's the tachas? Tachasima, Shivasam Tachasima, by the karban, you can only bring it after 8 days, and also by the Meiser, Tachas Shevet. I learned Exer Shavet, that the same halachas as a karban. Ila Bachar, Havar Avar, Yalfi Meiser. I learned Havar Avar from Meiser, Kolasha Yavar and Bavarta. Inami, or else I have another way of learning. Nidman Ritlai, if you told me that you can't use an animal that's a nidma, that looks like it's not one of this breed, it looks different. When it comes to a bechar, right? It says the firstborn of an ox. And I learned that what's considered a karban, only if it looks like the father is considered a firstborn bechar. So if it needs to look like the father, kalayim mibai, if it's actually a crossbreed, is it? You think it's going to be acceptable as a karban? For sure not. So this is going to be one of these things that can't be brought as a karban. Ella, so what was Rava talking about when it says seh and it's coming to exclude? It's coming to tell us that when you redeem a donkey, you have to use a lamb and not a crossbreed. Keditanan, as it was taught in a Mishnah. I was at a pit in Petach Hamar. You were probably at in Israel, and this probably happened. Ein paiden loy be'egel loy b'chayav loy b'shchuta. You can't redeem with a calf, the firstborn donkey. You can't use a calf. That means a young cow. You can't use any wild animal. That would be like a deer. Loy b'shchuta, the animal can't be shechted already. But loy b'treifa, can't be an animal that's a treifa, even if you're using the lamb, which is what you're supposed to. But loy b'kalayim, you also can't use kalayim. That's a crossbreed. Kvi, can't use a kvi. That's a crossbreed between a domestic and non-domestic. Yeah, probably like a buffalo or something. That's what they think. What about Rebbe Lezer? The Rebbe Lezer, I should say. Rebbe Lezer allows kalayim to be used for a redemption of the firstborn. Ditnan Rebbe Lezer mata b'kalayim ifnei shu seh. Rebbe Lezer says like this, that what could it be? A goat and a sheep. A goat and a sheep that mate, the child is going to be named a sheep, not a goat. So since it's called a sheep, so then it's going to be called, that's enough. That's enough for us, according to Rebbe Lezer. So you're allowed to use a sheep to redeem. So according to him, Lamai Hilchasa, what was Rava talking about? What was Rava talking about when he said we're excluding, if according to him, it's actually allowed? Amalach Rebbe Lezer, Kiyat Mad Rava. You know what Rava was talking about? Latame shenoilad minatar, the iburai minatame. Talking about the animal comes out looking like a tame. A cow gave birth to a horse. Why? Because it mated with a horse. Or a sheep that gave birth to a pig, because it mated with a pig. That's considered usher to eat. It's usher b'achila.
Just sent you a video of that goat and the deer.
Oh. And it says, it's like Rabbi Yeshua. So, and we're not following the view of Rabbi Yeshua, because the Rabbi Yeshua, if we would be following the view of Rabbi Yeshua, misek savim misei izim naftalan achi aviv keves v'ime kavsa. Because we would need to have, according to Rabbi Yeshua, I have another source for this. I have a clear pasuk that says that the mother and father of this animal need to be a lamb, a sheep. The Gemara asks, is it possible? It sounds like we're back in Bechiros. Remember the Gemara Bechiros over there? The elders of Athens. Remember that discussion from the elders of Athens? They had how long is the gestation of a snake? Remember that? That was the Gemara Bechiros. Bechiros Daf Ches. Can it become pregnant, a kosher animal from a non-kosher? So it says it can. The Iber Mikolut. We're actually not talking about a real non-kosher animal. We're talking about an animal that was born from two kosher parents, two kosher animals. The only thing is, it came out without the signs. There was a deformation, some genetic. It gets deformed. It comes out that the hoofs are not split. Now, when it, I'm sorry.
Question if it was both or not.
No, so it turns out that both its parents were sometimes like
It's not
it's possible for fingers to be webbed, but it happens sometimes, no?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it happens, and they cut it. I think, right?
Unless you want to be Aquaman.
So in this case, what happened was that usually over here, by the animal, it would probably be like this. The animal, the skin went all the way to the end, so that's how it was born. So although both parents were kosher and it's supposed to have a split hoof, right? Split, but over here, the way it was born, it was this deformation. It ended up not being kosher to eat. But this animal goes and mates with a kosher animal. Sorry.
You just said if a non-kosher animal gets married to a kosher animal and has a kosher baby, like talking about that, both kosher.
Right.
He is born to non-kosher.
Right.
Well, let's say, why does it? It still leaves the question.
Right. The Gemara is rejecting that. The Gemara is saying actually, it's not really possible to get a non-kosher animal to mate with a kosher animal. It's like it doesn't work. So it must be that it was really a kosher animal that just didn't have the signs of a kosher animal that was mating with another kosher animal, and that would be the problem to Reb Shimon. And it would be following the view of Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon considers it tamei. So if that's tamei, so that would be a tamei from a tamei animal is now mating with a tar animal.
Send you a picture.
Let's finish till the Mishnah. Boy Rava. But Rava has a question. If someone says, I'm accepting on myself an Ayla. The rule over here is accepts on himself an Ayla. So all he has to do is now designate any animal that he wants. He accepted on himself an Ayla. He didn't pick the animal yet. The Hifrishar, and then he designated the ox that he's going to bring. Uba Achav Reganav comes along, thief, and steals exactly that ox. Mipater Ganav Nafshei Bekeves. Can he go and give the guy back a lamb, telling him, Keves L'Rabbanan, according to the Rabbanan that hold that if someone accepts on himself an Ayla, you don't have to actually, bring the biggest animal. You could also bring a lamb. Or can he actually go back to the original owner and give him an Aylas, a knife, give him a bird, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, that says that, look, the fact is you don't need a real ox over here, even though you designated it. You don't need a real ox to satisfy your vow. So in the Mishnah, someone says that he is accepting on himself an Ayla. The rule is that he can bring a sheep. Yavi Kevis. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Yavi Torah ben Yaina. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says can even bring a Torah ben Yaina. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was very rich, but nevertheless, it was his opinion. The question now is, what is the halacha? Mi amrina shem Ayla kabbalah lavei, that he accepted on himself an Ayla, and whatever it is going to be good. I wanted to do the special mitzvah. You're giving me back a bird that I'm supposed to bring to satisfy my vow. That wasn't what I wanted. Just to get into such a discussion with the Ganav. After he asked the question, he answered. He says, Ganav said that he's actually allowed to do this. The Ganav can actually give it back to him. That Rava said, someone says, I'm accepting himself an Ayla. He designates an ox, and someone stole it from him. The Ganav can give the guy back a keves, according to the Rabbanan, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, or an Ayla Saif, because that would also fulfill his obligation. Okay, let's leave it over here. You have a good day, everyone.
Don't forget to
So
check.
tomorrow's a regular day?